Father, we just come before you, just give you praise with the opportunities that you set before us to serve this county, Johnston County. And just pray that all the decisions we make today will be pleasing in your eyes, and that you protect our students and teachers as they enjoy their summer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Stop joining with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll now accept a motion to go into closed session.
So move.
Madam Chair, I move that the board meet in closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318, 11A, 13, 5, and 6, to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under General Statute 115C-321, to consider matters relating to initial employment of individual employee, and to consult with board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege of confidential information, to instruct staff concerning the material terms of a proposed contract for the acquisition of land, and to consider the handling of the following cases: Johnston versus Town of Smithfield, Johnston County Board of Education, LM and Parents SM and RM versus Johnston County Board of Education, CS and Parents CS versus Johnston County Board of Education.
Okay, I have a motion. I will entertain a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate all in favor of going into closed session, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. We have, prior to going into closed session, we already had an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, so we will move right into our regular session business. The first order of business is nominations for the JCC Board of Trustees, a full-term vacancy. As y'all know, we voted, we had a replacement who served from March till June 30th as of today, and so we need to renominate someone. We need to nominate someone and vote on that person tonight. This term will go through 2027. So I will open the floor for nominations.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to nominate Reed Williams.
Okay, I have a motion for Reed Williams. Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the nominations. Motion by Mr. Carroll. I'm sorry, who did the second? Mr. Donovan. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. 7-0. Okay, now I'll ask for the vote of Reed Williams to fill the JCC Board of Trustees as a JCPS representative, term to expire in June 30th, 2027. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. 7-0. Thank you. Dr. Bracy.
Madam Chair, at this time I ask that the board approve consent items numbers 1 through 7.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Motion by, you got that, Mr. Carroll, second by, y'all going so fast here. Any discussion?
I have a concern over the board policies being instituted under the consent items. When I've read through policy, it states that they need to be open for discussion of community, parents, and especially the board.
And I think that's correct. I think that's why we do a first read and second read, for the benefit of board members and community offering suggestions for those. Now, what I will do in the future, just to make sure that everybody is aware. For example, you see board policy first read tonight. If this comes on, I will make a note that there are 3 policies that are coming for the first read, which will be up for 60 days now. Policy 1740, 1750, 1742, student parent grievance procedures, grievance procedure for employees and responding to complaints. Those are here for the first time. So if any member of the public or board members have questions about those or anything to add to those, it's really for the public. It's really self-explanatory to read. You have the things that are the line through the things that are not there, and you have in red things that are added. So I will do that from now on, and then as we go into the so that just to publicly identify what policies are coming forward. And then my expectation is that the board members and members of the public are going to get any comments, anything to me, Mr. Donovan, or Ms. Andrews, or Dr. Pierce. The form is on the website to put any questions out or have any concerns, at which time the policy committee at this meeting will look at those and bring anything back to the board.
I'd like you to please explain what the second read policy is.
I'm sure what you say.
What is the policy that has the second read tonight?
The technical changes to policies. Okay, I'm glad you know. And what that is it's a list of policies. At times you have different general statutes, different laws, different reference points, and there's a policy that we are able to approve those without any kind of reads if it doesn't change the content of the policy, because you're not developing policy or adding to the policy. You're simply adjusting any reference points and any things of that nature. Well, it's not a real clarification. It's just a change, because it's like your references to that policy. Some of those references made at the bottom of your policy. If you just click on any one of them, you can see what I'm talking about. It'll have different. Yeah, it'll have different references, different general statutes, whatever it is. And what happens there is Dr. Pierce and Katie take care of that, of making sure that we're up to date on all those legal aspects of that.
I have been concerned about whether or not it's more than just the legal reference to the policy that have been changed under that particular policy. I did write you an email about that and asked to have that talked about, as well as added to the basic agenda for policy, and it doesn't look like it made it on the agenda, which again is another policy problem, but,
And I do have I do have your list of policies that you questioned, and I think you said you were questioning whether there's some conflict in some policies.
and we have a policy that just has
we will,
some things in it.
I do have that, I do have your list, and we will, at the policy committee, look at those with the legal counsel. I mean, I think we have, I don't know, we have 5 or 6 attorneys there sometimes. And we will look at those and make sure there's if there is a contradiction. I don't see the contradiction, but I'm not saying there's not. And that's why we will look at the policy committee meeting, and then I will report back to the board with that, with the policy. And not just Ms. Antoine, if anybody else has any policies that have questions, and that's fine, because I mean, I agree, and I think all policies should be followed. If policies are not followed, certainly there should be corrective action for not following policies. So I'm 100% with you, and there may be other policies we have to look at too as well. So, but that's just an ongoing process. I mean, there's a ton of policies. I think we all know that there's a ton of policies, and we get to them as quickly as we can. But if any member of the board has those, I'm not offended when somebody sends me an email and says, "Hey, I think there's a contradiction here." I'm not offended at all by that.
I don't think there's offense made when I asked about it, but here's the thing, I don't even get communication back about it.
And again, the issue is, it's an issue that needs to go through the policy committee first, and then we'll bring it back.
And I'm not part of the policy committee or the legal committee
Oh.
or the financial committee, so I have to bring my concerns here
No,
when I
you
don't
bring-
get an answer on email.
No, you send that to the policy, the chair of the policy committee, which is me, and I will get back to you on that. After
I
the
never
next
heard from
policy-
you an email, which is why I
After
bring
the
it
next
here.
policy committee meeting. I'm telling you now.
Any further discussion? Okay, no further discussion. All right, I'll call for the vote on consent items 1 through 7. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
5-2. Okay, Dr. King.
care to have you, we will.
I would not take that off.
Ms. Vance will recommend me to be a technology issue.
There he is. He's back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank y'all. Thank you so much.
Talk again for me?
Check.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure how far I went, before you got lost, but, again, this item, simply allows us to purchase material from Carolina Biological in the amount of, not to exceed $55,000. That will, cover the cost to refurbish our science kits for our AA class. So moved.
This is an action item to allow them purchase the materials necessary to refurbish our science kits at a cost of not to exceed $55,000. I have a motion by Mr. Carroll, second by Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 7-0.
Thank you, board members. Our next item is the JCPS Science, Safety, and Lab Materials item. Board members, obviously, when the school system, as things kind of chug along over time, from time to time, materials and resources that we use for in our science labs, kind of, lose their usefulness. Or sometimes we've gone a distance without replacing items. This year, we asked our teachers and administrators in our schools to provide us with information about safety-related items that they needed in their schools to be replaced. We put together a list of those items, and we are requesting permission this evening to purchase science, safety, and lab materials, also from Carolina Biological Supply, in an amount not to exceed $185,000.
Okay, this is an action item for the purchase of science, safety, and lab materials.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Donovan, a second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? 7-0.
Thank you, board members. And my final item is our virtual services contract with Invocation. This is the contract that we will use to provide instructional services at our virtual academy. This item would allow us to purchase access to course content for our students, specifically in the elective areas who are enrolled at Johnston County Virtual Academy. We are purchasing items that will allow us to provide those services for a similar number of students that we provided last year. This is an item that we would ask to be funded at a rate of $921,960.
Okay, this is an action item for the cost of adminum, at the cost of not to exceed $921,960. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wooten. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion?
Dr. King, what did we spend last year on this?
Pretty much the exact same amount. I think we actually came out just a little above that, but we had a credit on our account that allowed us to stay within this number that you have here. It's basically the same number.
Do we know what this cost, how many students this covers?
Well, it will depend on the way those students are configured, but we should be able to cover an amount equal to what we had last year, which would be somewhere right in the range of about 550.
I see that this gives the kids access to virtual coursework and such. Just for the virtual academy, is this something that could be expanded into all the schools? I mean, just not virtual academy. I mean, if you're talking virtual coursework, is that stuff that can be used in other or other high schools as well?
So it could be, but we try to be very circumspect about doing this. These courses will most likely, for the most part, probably 90% of this is elective coursework. Because you remember we actually employ teachers to do our core courses. So the answer to your question is, we could do it that way, but the difficulty there is if we do it with students from other schools, it begins to really eat up the cost and make it rather non-efficient. Because in this way, we end up paying per class for these.
I'm just looking at the dollar amount per how many kids are going to be served. What did you say, 500 kids?
How many,
550.
was it about 700 students that were served this past year?
550, I think is what he said.
Edgementum is significantly lower cost than having an in-person teacher. I thought we had 20 to 30 instructors over there this past year, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, approximately 20. But again, those folks teach core coursework, the maths and sciences. The benefit of this item is that it allows us to provide the elective courses that our students need. And as you guys can imagine, if we find ourselves in a place to have to provide elective courses for those students, the number of teachers and the kind of content areas that we would have to cover would be enormous.
I'm just wondering if we can move any more of our coursework over to the Edumentum structure.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can we move any more of our Edumentum, any more of our coursework over to the Edumentum, instruction rather than keeping it in-house? Is there any way to do that?
There certainly is a way to do that. Admin would be glad to provide us with all of our instruction. But I think what's important is, frankly, we did not feel like we were able to monitor student performance on the core courses well enough when we did that with admin. And so that's why we moved in a different direction. But to be clear, we certainly could do that. Not sure it would be advisable. We're not sure that provides us with the best opportunity to serve students.
Did we have any other how many applicants did we have in the former year? Did all applicants get into the virtual academy?
All applicants. So all applicants who applied during the actual application period, I honestly, actually, I don't know if all of them were admitted. I believe so. But once we got to the end of the application period, we did limit that enrollment to students who had special struggles.
Would you be open into having more students enrolled into the virtual academy?
If I'm being honest, I really don't think that's the best idea. I think we're still working to find the sweet spot in terms of how to best serve students in that setting. I think what was clear to us the first year of the program is that a very, very large number is more than we were able to manage and monitor as well as we would like to due to the realities of kind of virtual coursework. And so, I honestly, at this point, I believe that, a smaller number puts us in a better position in terms of being able to meet the needs of students, to guarantee that students are being served as well as possible.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the virtual service contract with Admitum, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Dr. King. Mr. Moore.
Righty. Good evening, everyone. My only item tonight is for easement request for My Kids Club. They are an after-school program in the Selma community, and they are constructing a new building. And whenever they started, they found out that the planned tie-in of their water and sewer towards Pollock Street was not possible, so they have requested it to tie in on the lines at Selma Elementary, which is adjacent to their new building. So the request is for the board to first declare the area for the lines to be run, the easement surplus and not needed for school purposes to the extent required to grant the easement only, and second, to approve the easements.
I think. Okay, do two.
Oh,
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to grant the easement for the My Kids Club first by declaring the easement area surplus and not needed for school purposes to extend required to grant the easement. Right, I was trying to read the motion.
I think the issue is that
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Board Member Carroll is I understand that, but you should recuse yourself from the conversation too, your discussion.
Let me have a motion to allow Mr. Carroll to recuse himself from this vote.
I make them,
Okay. Okay, let me have a motion for that.
so moved.
Second? Okay, all those in favor of allowing Mr. Carroll to recuse himself from this vote, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, I will entertain a motion, first, for Johnston County Board of Education to grant this easement to My Kids Club with, number one, declaring the easement area surplus and not needed for school purposes to the extent required to grant the easement. So that's the first vote. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Donovan, a second by Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
6-0. Now, the second part of this is that we approve the easement for this project. So I will entertain a motion.
Motion.
By Mr. Donovan,
Second.
second by Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Just wait
Oh, go ahead.
a second. I just want to make it clear to the public that we were given two different opinions from engineers that the wastewater can handle the extra capacity from this building, and that I was just told this evening that if Selma Elementary at some point in time needed some sort of extra development or extra student capacity, that there are other lines that are available to us to handle that waste. So it isn't going to affect the public school in any sort of manner or way other than just to be cordial and do what's right for the Kids Club.
correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Ventrano.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. We have two administrative recommendations for you for your consideration this evening. First, we have two assistant principal recommendations. These will be 2-year contracts. First for Timothy Chartrand, North Johnston High School, and then Derek Munoz, North Johnston High School.
Okay, this is an action item. I will entertain a motion to accept these recommendations.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Donovan, second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
5-2.
Second, we have a central administrator for you to consider, Letitia Lee, to serve as licensure director effective August 1st.
I'll entertain a motion for
So
this
moved.
recommendation. Who said?
Second.
Mr. Donovan? Yeah. And second by Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Britt? You have a folder from Mr. Britt. Everybody should have a folder.
Should be labeled finance and should be in order of the 4 items I have for your consideration tonight. Good evening, board members, Dr. Bracy. The very first item that I have for you is our final budget amendment of the year. It looks like this attachment here. The purpose of the final budget amendment is to capture all of the final allotments that we get from DPI. And yes, we do get additional allotments in December, even after the school year has ended. But this includes that, and it also includes our kind of like our year-end cleanup. You know, at the end of the year, we run out of state funds, and then we start moving things into county funds and local funds. And so this budget amendment captures both of those things, the final allotments and then the overages that go, that we know that we're coming, move them into local. And so just looking at the local side, we've got notes listed there for some of the larger moves. You see additional money put in place for our yellow bus local cost. We've talked about this a few times this year, that our yellow bus costs were increasing faster than our revenue from the state. And then we also have a couple of items in there for increased copier use from our summer learning programs and other items there for schools. And then a bit of money to move in for local teacher pay, and that's where we clear our year-end licensure issues. So that would be a case where if a teacher is, we're closing in at the end of the year, and a teacher has an issue with their license, and we get them out of state funds and put them in local. Doesn't mean that that teacher is not licensed to teach in that class. It just means that DPI hasn't gotten around to approving or to qualifying that teacher for that class. So it doesn't mean that there's an issue. I just don't gamble, and I like for everything to be clean at the end of the year. Because what normally happens is DPI will make it retroactive to the prior fiscal year, but I don't do that. If for some reason there is a outstanding item at the end of the year, we could end up having to repay that back to the state. And so I move it to local, and I don't have an issue with it. And that is the bulk of our final budget amendment of the year.
Okay, this is an action item, so I'll entertain a motion to accept this budget amendment.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wooten, second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion?
I would
I'm
like.
sorry, who did it? Sorry.
I would like to say, Mr. Britt, I'm still amazed about what your shop does for the board and for this, and for Johnston County Public Schools each and every day. It's amazing how accurate your data is, and the job and the work that your department does for the school system, because it's where we are today is because of your sharp eye and making everybody in the school system provide a budget to you each and every year, and it pays off in the long run.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have an extremely strong team that works with me, and this is 2 years in a row that we've had where not a single school or department went over budget, and so that was really impressive.
And
Well,
I'm going to add to that real fast because I think it's your work that got the budget funded fully for Johnston County Public Schools this year. And I appreciate, again, let me say, I appreciate the efforts. I appreciate the work from the county commissioners, their confidence in Johnston County Public Schools. And I know this board looks forward to continuing the upward trend of Johnston County Public Schools. Dr. Bracy, thank you for what you do. But that's a huge statement to be fully funded in this day and time by your Board of Commissioners. And I certainly appreciate the work that everybody did for that.
And I agree. The commissioners have stated many times their confidence in you and Dr. Bracy, and again, I agree with Mr. Tippett. This is the reason why we were fully funded this year, based on what your work and the work of this cabinet in this room.
I want to I want to thank you for providing us with the actual line item budget items when you do these amendments. It's very, very helpful. And it is unfortunate that in the actual budget, the local ask, that we didn't have more of this. But I would encourage you to bring us more of this. This is just so helpful to the public. I know it's very helpful to me to know exactly what we're funding, and it's exactly what people want to see right now. So thank you.
Will do. Very good, thank you. Is that a vote? A vote.
Oh. Sorry, I just,
Still thinking about the budget.
Terry's taking my M&Ms over here, so I'm trying to get straight. Okay, I will call, after we have a motion and a second, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this budget amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 7-0, thank y'all. Okay, next.
Thank you. The second item, line item I have here is our Surrey insurance premiums for this upcoming year. So before you, you'll see a page that I left out of my own packet, but you'll see a summary page that has all our different line items there. We, along with most every other school district in the nation, just read an article recently on about this. Every school district's insurance premiums are skyrocketing. We were fortunate that ours didn't go up more than they did. I've seen or have heard of other school districts taking as much as a 50% cost increase. Ours is still up quite a bit from previous years. We're very fortunate to have Mr. Henry Smith hired and on board, who has a wealth of knowledge about this. He's got a lot of plans for this upcoming year, and so he's going to be speaking with the Finance Committee and working for some different options for this upcoming year. But it's presented for your consideration this evening.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Mr. Wooten, motion. Second by Mr. Donovan. Any discussion?
What is it that raised that property, boiler, machinery, inland marine rate? Just, I mean, that went up the most by $600,000.
Yeah, there's a whole list of things that have gone into that. Some is the property values themselves climbing. That was a significant part. All the different claims that have been around the nation over the last couple of years, from California to Florida, we absorb that as well. There's a whole lot of factors. Another one is the lack of reinsurance. So our insurers getting reinsured, I've heard that's become a problem as well. And so that was one of the issues where we looked at with increasing our deductibles, and how did that play, how did that factor into the premiums that we're paying. And I think one of the solutions that we're looking at to try to, not to get too far ahead, but one of the solutions we're looking at to address that issue that you're discussing is looking at potentially like a self-insured program as well, a protected self-insured program.
Yeah, for the public's knowledge, because you can't see this, but our insurance went up $900,000.
That's correct.
In the coming year. So that's a significant amount of money, which was part of our budget that the commissioners saw.
That's correct.
So just to clarify, this wasn't anything specific to our school district that happened that made a $600,000 increase, and then the other large increase came under workers' compensation, which.
Right, and that one is tied to us. So that the workers' comp cost is our loss runs, our cost that we have. The better we can do at lowering our accident rates, the better that premium will get.
We hired a risk manager, did we not?
We sure did.
Right, we're trying to bring that down, and the self-insured portion would bring it down a significant portion.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate your work on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this proposal, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0, thank you.
Thank you. The next to last thing I have is a continuation of our existing PCG contract. PCG provides two different services for our school district. One, the largest, is our Medicaid billing. And so this is a huge component for the EC department. We're generating greater than $1 million a year in revenue from the help that PGC or PCG provides. Get my letters correct here. I had a customer called PGC, and so I get them mixed up all the time. But PCG charges a fee for all the dollars we collect. So if we don't collect anything, we don't get billed anything. But we collect quite a bit of money from that. So we are asking the board to approve up to $260,000 to cover the two services that they provide. One is through the billing of Medicaid, and the other one is the 504 plan that you see before you. This contract was reviewed in prior years by the board attorney, and so it's just a continuation. We're on a year-to-year continuation of the same contract.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Donovan, second by Mr. Tippett. Any discussion?
I believe it's either 13 or 15%. It's one of those two.
What did we pay to them last year?
It was just over 200 and something $1,000, 225, 230. Because I've got a little bit of a cushion in this to, just in case we're able to build more this upcoming year, which is the hope. The more we are able to build, the more the cost will increase for this program.
Do you
And-
think that this is beneficial to our district to have this kind of out, have it contracted out versus trying to build in-house and do this?
Yes, it's a tremendous asset to the EC department. So the way that works is it's billed in arrears. And so we upfront the cost for services provided that aren't funded by the federal government. And so anything that's funded by the Fed, we don't receive a secondary reimbursement for, because the Fed already considers that reimbursement. But everything that we're putting into it from local dollars and state dollars, we're able to bill that back to Medicaid at established rates. And there's a whole lot of terminology and details that go into that that's way beyond what an accountant would typically have knowledge over. And so that's the service that they provide for us. And they do that for a good portion of the school districts around the state as well.
And
There is a provision in the contract to where if we did other services or got to a certain level, that it does drop. I don't think we've hit that level yet.
I think Ms. Andrews and Mr. Tippett could probably teach a class on that PCG and Medicaid billing.
That's right.
And I think it's important that everybody knows every dime of this money goes to the
Right back in the EC.
right back in the EC.
That's if you look at the budget, that's your PRC 305, 306. One is for Medicaid administrative costs. The other one is for direct services on there. That's under Fund 8.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 7-0.
Thank you. The very last thing I have is the request to approve an interim salary schedule. So this is also in your packet as well. I say interim because we don't have the state budget yet. And so the largest component of our salary schedule is not here. And the reason why I'm asking for an interim approval is because we're not going to have a July board meeting. And if the state approves a budget in July and we don't have the salary schedules approved, then I have to wait till August to implement the new schedule. So what this will do, we've got notes listed on the second page. This will allow us to do many of the things that we've listed in our request to the county commissioners. It allows us to do the final compression for our classified salary schedules. So just to recap on that or remind everyone what that is, 3 years ago we started out with 54 steps on a scale, meaning if you started working at Johnston County Schools at 22 years old, you'd have to work till you were 76 to ever reach the top of your pay grade. And so now what we've been doing is every year we've been able to request funds from the county commissioners to allow us to compress that schedule. So we've been able to do eight steps per year, and this is the last year. And so this is what we're really excited to present to you, because we finally get back to a 30-step schedule for our classified staff. So when the budget is approved by the state, what we'll do is we'll take this schedule and then take the state raises and just add it to what you see before you today. Plus, we'll add in all of the certified schedules in addition to that.
Appreciate your hard work on that. This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Let's see, Kevin, and then Mr. Wooten. Any discussion? We really appreciate you doing this. This is making a big difference in the lives of people. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Pierce.
Good evening, board members. I have two policies. The first one is under item 1, and this is the second read of Policy 4316. Since it was originally put on the agenda for first and second read, last meeting, if you remember, it was pulled away, and since the last meeting, the only additional things that were added to the policy is on the first page and the first paragraph. Concerns regarding personal hygiene and cleanliness will be addressed by the Student Services Department of each school rather than being a dress code violation. And then underneath, a little lower at the bottom of that page, under specifically, it was changed to say students must wear clothing that covers their skin, and the words were added from upper chest to mid-thigh, and before it was just chest to thigh. So those are the additions since the last time it was presented.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Donovan, a second by Mr. Carroll. Any discussion?
Why are we going backwards on dress code? It feels like, we're just saying, listen, upper chest, mid-thigh, those are all kind of, there's real no definition there. And I just feel like we're dropping our standards. Not that I don't think that maybe we should, offer some options to girls to be able to wear, a sleeveless shirt or what have you. But it just feels like we've dropped the standard here with this dress code. And the other option that I was told that they were considering was uniforms. So I just feel like we've gone one extreme to the other extreme, and I'm just wondering what we're doing.
I don't think did the policy committee talk about uniforms?
You continuously came in here and talked to me about uniforms. I think you put it out on social media about
Yeah, and
uniforms.
we talked about it, but I think parents voiced their opinion that they didn't want it. So aren't we supposed to be?
I'm just asking why we're going to extremes. I think, maybe a uniform is an extreme, and I'm thinking maybe,
Well, I'll say just for girls with long legs. No, I'm saying we had a measurement for shorts, and now we're going with mid-thigh, so that is measurable. It's, in
Or
my
is that
opinion,
measurable according to what? There's no objective measure to that.
I mean, you have a thigh, and it's the mid of the thigh.
Are we going to measure
That's
everyone's
measurable.
thigh and then determine the middle?
That's the definition, ain't it? I'm just going to call it a question.
That it was based on so many inches above the knee or something like that at some point? It required the judgment of a measurement somehow or other prior to mid-thigh.
Yeah, so we've had for years several different measures being used. Sticky notes, people walking around with rulers, and I think most of the feedback that the board received, and I won't speak for the board, was they were more worried about things that cause disruptions instead of their children being stared at when they walked in every day to see if they needed to be measured on if their clothes were long enough or not. And I'm just sharing what was shared to them. So, but this is the board's policy, not mine, so discussion would need to be with the policy review group.
Our objective here is to get these children ready for either college or career. In college and career, there's expectations, there's a professionalism, there's a guide that you're supposed to kind of work towards. Covering your genitals as the minimum seems very out of step with what a career would expect of someone walking into my office that I would do an interview with. I would be not impressed if they came in with a little tiny mini dress and a halter top. I just think we need to look at what our objective on this board is to provide an education, is to get these kids ready to understand the expectations of the world for them in a career or moving into that college setting, which will also move them into a career. And I just think that this policy might move us backwards. And I'm not saying that we don't have areas and ways to open, make it a little bit better for the females inside our district to have a little more flexibility, because we do have some with long legs and it gets hot, and we understand that maybe they want to have a shoulderless shirt, but I think this moves the bar too far.
I'm perfect. I mean, I hear what the concerns are. I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with saying upper chest to mid-thigh. I think that's self-explanatory. I think, quite frankly, dress codes are pretty much common sense. I'm sorry that, and that's not a slam against anybody on this board. I just think the dress codes are common sense, and I think that it's something that you're never gonna get 100% consensus for. I think that's what the committee talked about was, can you have some kind of measurement? Because what we wanted to do was make sure we didn't have those, and I don't know what they're called, those things that show their stomach. I don't have any idea what these things are called. But I think if we wanted to go from area to area, and we look at the various policies, and that's what we did here. That's why we made sure we had something that was not see-through. And again, I'm comfortable with what this policy is, and as far as the chair, as far as I'm concerned, that's the way it's going to stay unless somebody on this board feels otherwise. Unless the board votes otherwise.
So I know it's changed a lot. It's been, sometimes subjective, sometimes more objective, What was the standard before the policy change? I'm having trouble remembering because we have changed so much. Was it like 3 inches above the knee or something like that? What was the standard?
I believe that shorts may be no higher than mid-thigh.
That was before the revisions.
Yes, sir, skirts and dresses must be no higher than mid-thigh. That was what was struck out. Yes, sir.
I don't know that it is common sense. And I think that these, well, we are talking about children. We are talking about, kids that need help, they need structure, they need discipline, they need rules, they need guidance. And the main objective is to get them educated. And we need to do that in the best way possible and get them ready for the world. And that's what our public schools are here to serve and do. And some female inside of our high school female or middle school student who comes in with a mid-chest top could be very well endowed. It might be very different. So again, here we go. We're moving into not objective measure. And
Or she would be sent home because it says upper chest.
maybe if she's well endowed, upper chest could, listen, here's the thing. The fact that we're even having to have the conversation about what their physique looks like in terms of this dress policy means that maybe the dress policy has some issues.
No, I disagree. I think the sentence says, in addition, if a student's dress or appearance is so unusual, inappropriate that it clearly disrupts class or learning activities, the student may be required to change their dress or appearance. And I think that takes care of what you just said. I mean, I don't know that there's anything else that needs to be added.
Well, I think if you just put an administrator into a place where they're discussing, this is your upper chest, this is your mid chest, I just think that kind of puts,
It invites
Yeah,
conflict
yeah,
into
I
a
mean,
school
like-
situation that doesn't need to be there if we had a very straightforward policy.
Sure. As a principal, Dr. Pierce, and I'm going to put you on the spot because you've evaded this, do you want to go up to someone and say, hey, it's, your upper chest is showing? I mean, you don't want to do that, obviously.
No one wants to address dress code violations, I can promise you.
I mean,
Well, you'll do it if you got to.
But if there's a policy, you will follow what the policy states, yes.
This policy it's very subjective to each individual principal determination. Look, there's no real measure. I mean, like a good measure would be like, has a strap that covers a substantial portion of the shoulder or something like that. Something that is more measurable objectively by an administrator. I think we put our administrators in conflict with parents and students through this dress code.
I don't know a dress code that we've ever had that did not put us in conflict with parents and administrators. Because this argument, anytime we've addressed the dress code, it has been this type of thing because it's hard to address everyone's idea of what may be appropriate or inappropriate. But without parent support of anything we have, we're always going to have problems. I would think, upper chest and mid-thigh is pretty self-explanatory to most average people. And, you don't have to drag out a ruler or anything to determine somebody's mid-thigh or upper chest. So, nothing's going to be perfect. We don't want to talk about, we just had some conversation, I think, about uniforms. But without doing something like that, you're going to have a dress code that is open to, criticism. It's not enough. It's too much. So, I
Right,
think
and
we
that was
just
my-
need to
right, that was my
work with
point,
the
is that we're moving
parents
from-
and have them address it before kids gets to school. If it's a problem, the principal certainly can call parents.
Sorry for interrupting you. That was my point, is that we went from one extreme to the other extreme. We went from, let's do, you know, what I was hearing out of that committee was, let's do these uniforms, to now, you know, just put on a mini dress and come to school. Why are we lowering the bar for our kids? Listen, I just think it creates a value expectation for our children when we say, you know, just do the minimum. And I just feel like, that our kids are more valuable than this, and it creates conflict, and I just, well, you heard what I had to say.
And I want to say, I've not heard any discussion at all about any kind of uniform.
Okay, any other discussion? I will call for a vote of the student dress code policy 4316. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
5-2. The last one is for information only, correct?
Yes, the last item is Board Policy 4304, it's Code of Student Conduct. This is a first read. And on page 5, which would actually be on the page that starts with F, prohibited conduct. In fraction 2, what has been added is the word vapes. It says possession, display, or use of tobacco products / vapes. And what has been changed there is the first offense has been changed to confiscated, or the product they may receive up to 3-day suspension. Before, it had up to 4 steps before anything, more offenses could be taken, and so now it's been reduced down to 3 steps. So your first step could be suspension, second step could be a suspension, and then third step could lead up to a long-term suspension. And then the only other adjustment on this is on page 6, under electronic devices, Code of Conduct violation number 3, and that would have been second offense, and the words added were that the administration will confiscate any electronic devices. We will not put this responsibility on teachers to take these devices. And so that's the 2 things that have been added to this policy. So
No.
it's currently information and for first read.
Madam Chair, I move that we give temporary approval to policy 4304, Code of Student Conduct, based on exigent circumstances as granted by Board Policy 2420, which states temporary approval may be granted by the board in lieu of formal policy to meet emergency conditions or special events that would take place before formal action can be taken. By taking this action, this policy will be effective today and be presented again in our August meeting as required. And what we want to do that for, just for the board's benefit, actually give me a second first.
I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Now discussion.
All right, now comments. What we want to do is we want to take this. What we looked at, and I think the policy committee understands that there needs to be a lot of revamping to this policy. And some concerns that we have is that we're up on out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions, but we're still having a lot of disciplinary issues in our schools. We want to get that data, as well as some things with Choice Academy. However, in order to get this in the publication to begin in the school year, that's what the motion is for, so we can put this into the publication for parents. What's it called, Gazette or something? Gazette.
Yes, sir.
Now, just again, the policy. This is not approval. This is not final approval of this policy. As you know, all policies are amended whenever they need to be. So this policy will come back next board meeting for second read. We'll take out. It'd be the same thing. We'll take all comments from board members, from the community. But this policy enables us to get it into print, and then if the board wants to make additional changes, we can make additional changes. What we did is and again, one reason this is a little more delayed than we had hoped for, since we knew we were not going to rewrite the entire policy, what we did was send Dr. Pierce send surveys out, questionnaires out, whatever, to all of our administrators to say, hey, what do we need to change at this point in time on this policy? quite frankly, we didn't get a lot of things to be changed. We expected a lot more than we got. So that's why you see the changes Dr. Pierce mentioned were the changes that those administrators came back with. So again, there's a lot of data we need to get. But again, what we want to do is have something that we can have in place when this Gazette is published with these changes that the administrators have asked for.
So you're advocating the immediate approval of it is what I'm, with all that, yeah.
Temporary approval.
Why would we publish something that hasn't been fully approved?
Because you're going to publish the old one if you don't do this. And the old one is not going to have the changes that the administrators want in this one. So there may be additional amendments. I mean, it may change. All policies are working. I mean, the policies you get tonight may be amended by 6 months from now.
Sure. Right.
But what we're doing is trying to include. What we want to do is include the changes that administrators wanted in this in the Gazette, based on what they provided, rather than printing the old policy as is, because that's the alternative.
And Dr. Bracey and Dr. Pierce, you're thinking that the adoption of this policy may give it a little more teeth, and then it will help the principals enforce this, which would hopefully encourage some prevention measures. Is this, I mean, I'm just trying to understand the totality of it. Is this correct in what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So what we're doing is increasing the quickness of discipline while lowering the standard of a dress code.
And with the, and I didn't review the policy, so with this vaping policy, would it be potential that we could add something at a later time? Well, what specifically, I mean, maybe, I can tell you want to talk. All right, so let me get this out. All right, so I'm advocating that we add like an education piece to it. So if we catch you vaping, I mean, it's unfortunate, but let's make you sit through something that will educate you about the dangers of vaping. And I know that sounds cheesy, like I get it, but I think that would be a further deterrent. If you know, getting suspended, maybe, but I'm gonna have to sit through this 3-day, if I gotta go through DARE 2.0, I think that would be a beneficial addition to this program.
All right, and I think that's a good suggestion, and that's what we want to do at this. And our hopes were to have those things in place, but just the time frame and the things we were getting didn't get us there. So rather than printing the old policy, we wanted to take the information, and it took a little while for administrators to get us some information on this.
Well, they've been kind of busy.
Yeah, so it's but that's where we are at this point in time.
If I could also just say, unless this is a line, we're starting to look at the whole policy for code of conduct in October, so that hopefully we can bring you something in January. A lot of times, operational policies like code of conduct, dress code, these policies, you don't want to change them during the year if you don't have to, so that you have consistency. So the reason for asking for this is hopefully we wouldn't have any drastic changes to this, but we hope to bring some drastic changes to the policy, so that when we start, and hopefully we'd be talking about that in January, February, March.
And I don't have any problems with that, and I appreciate your work on that. My concern is that we're sending mixed messages to these students. We're saying, on one hand, we're lowering expectations. On the other hand, we're gonna discipline you more harshly and more quickly with the same brushstroke. That's my big concern with this. The other concern I would have is that we move over the duty to confiscate just to administrators. Is there any exception for educators or other staff if, they ran into an issue where they needed to confiscate it, that they aren't going to get in trouble? I don't want them to be hurt by this policy.
And I think as a teacher, shouldn't they have whether it's in policy or not, they have a duty to protect the learning environment, so they would be cleaning, confiscating anything that could be a potential hazard or danger to a student, correct?
So, absolutely, but one of the things we're trying to do is protect our teachers. Most recently, teachers are taking iPhones that are $1,000 devices, and then they're being accused that it's been damaged, and then someone's trying to take out something on them to try to get the money back. And so what we're trying to do, some teachers are saying, well, the policy said I had to do it. So what we're trying to do is protect them by allowing administrators to be the one that gets those things, so our teachers are not held accountable or liable if something breaks.
Yeah, there's a difference between like a vape pen or an iPhone,
Right,
sucks
and that's
to have
only,
your iPhone taken. I
yeah,
get
so
it.
there's other
I get
things
it,
about
but-
confiscating, but that, the changes in this policy is only about the vape piece of it. Yeah.
That raises Mr. Johnson's question again about, is there a duty to protect in the classroom and keep a safe environment? And if a teacher were to run across a vape on the floor, it fell out of someone's pocket, whatever, and they pick it up, are they now in trouble for confiscating something that should have never been in the classroom? Or,
So the vape is not, they can confiscate the vape, it's the phones, the electronic devices. I apologize if I wasn't clear on that. Yes, it's the electronic
Thank you so much.
device, yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote since we have this motion for interim approval or temporary approval. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? 7-0. Thank you. I wish everyone a safe 4th of July. Thank you, staff, for being here, even though the building was closed today. Hope everyone has a great holiday. Please be safe. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Sorry, Madam Chair, let me do one more announcement. The next policy review, we did add one because we have some things we got to do. July 12th, 9 o'clock, just so the public knows. I meant to say that. Here in the boardroom, July 12th, 9 o'clock, here in the boardroom is the next policy committee meeting. We had some stuff we didn't finish last time.
Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Donovan, second by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye, 7-0. Thank y'all so much for being here, all of you.